Thank you, Media Post. It's fun to sponsor this event. Great to see everybody in real life again. I'm going to spend a few minutes. It's me between. I'm in between you guys leaving and getting back to work, so I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet. But we're going to talk a little bit about how Roku is approaching the upfront. We're at the outfront. We're going to talk about the upfront and talk a little bit about how we've been talking to lots of marketers, lots of agencies, about how they make their brand stand out, right? And that's a lot of what the discussions have been about today, about reach, about contextual relevancy, all of that. And a big piece of what we're trying to do in a big way is make their brand unmissable with our audience. And it's also being unmissable throughout the streamer's journey. And that's something that we as a platform, we'll talk a little bit about our position in the marketplace as a platform, that we have a great understanding of the streamer's journey. And that starts from powering on their device to then searching for the content that they want to watch, watching that content, making sure the right relevant and deterministically targeted ad is served to them. And then ultimately, as this panel was just talking about, closed loop attribution, finding out did they actually see that ad and did they actually go buy that product? And so that's a big piece of how we're looking at things. What I want to talk about today is a couple of really big issues that we're facing as a marketplace, as an ecosystem in the advertising world, and talk a little bit about how Roku is trying to help solve for some of these issues. The first one is what we've been talking about a lot, and we talked a lot about it today, but it's been a big headline, and it continues to be a headline. That is linear television viewers leaving linear television and adopting streaming. And how then do we go replace that reach and go make sure that we're replacing that audience and we're making sure that our ads are in front of that audience in a meaningful way? So there's a couple examples, and this one we just pulled out, obviously, from the World Cup back in November, but linear reach decreased by 30% since the last Men's World Cup. All while the streaming hours were growing exponentially. And what we also found on and again, our platform is vast, and I'll talk about the size in a second, but we have a lot of information, a lot of data about what our streamers are doing on our platform. What we found, obviously streaming hours for World Cup are growing incredibly well, but then we also saw that 28% of those Roku users, those Roku streamers that watched the World Cup, actually added a new AVOD service to their platform, to their individualized Roku platform to watch that. So we're trying to help the entire content and advertising ecosystem by helping those other streaming partners adopt new customers. The other thing we're seeing, and this is no surprise, but 2022 was a seminal moment in this chart here, right, where the weekly reach for traditional TV was overcome by that of a weekly streaming reach. And so we've been seeing this happening, and this trend is continuing where there's more and more cord cutting happening. We're continuing to see this happen. All along while this, the dark purple line, which is Roku's purple color, I don't know if you made that connection, but what we're seeing in the streaming ecosystem as well is that the SVOD of the world, the Netflix is, while they're still subscription-based, not their ad-supported piece yet, Amazon Prime, your other SVODs, those viewing hours are starting to wane a bit. They're starting to come down. It's not as aggressive growth there. What we're seeing from consumers is subscription fatigue. I think someone mentioned in one of the panels that you add up all your subscriptions, all of a sudden that a la carte doesn't really make sense anymore. So we're definitely seeing subscription fatigue. We're also seeing that the #1 searched term on the Roku platform is free. All of our consumers, the vast majority of them, want free content. And so what we're seeing is that AVOD growth and fast growth is growing in a big, big way. So that conundrum, right, of, okay, the audiences are leaving linear, and they're going to streaming. How do I best attach them? And that's where we feel like we really step in a big way. We are America's #1 streaming platform in terms of scale and size of audience, in terms of users. Right now, we're just above 70 million active accounts. That's about 3 people in each of those households or accounts. So it's over 200 million people we're talking about streaming across our platform. The majority of them, 60%, are cord cutters, so they're no longer watching linear television. They're no longer able to be reached via linear television. And then when you start thinking about player size, and the pie chart there is the ad-supported impressions across platforms in the streaming ecosystem. We're almost half of those, all of those, right? And the nearest competitor is Amazon Fire Stick, which is a fraction of those impressions, which again, my team and I don't sell all those. A lot of partners in this room are actually selling the impressions that land on a Roku device. But what it does do for us is it really opens up a lot of data about what streamers are doing and what they are watching. And we'll get a little bit into that in a second. The other piece that's interesting is, so we originated as sticks and pucks that you would plug into a not-so-smart TV and make it smart. We're still selling those, and we're doing very well there. The other iteration that's happening in this environment is that the operating system is going to be built into the screen of the TV, right? And so right now, about 30% of all TVs sold are a Roku operated or Roku operated system TV. That gets really interesting because in all those TVs is embedded ACR technology, which I think a lot of us are familiar with, automated content recognition, which then tells us what that glass is watching. So if that TV is part of the 40% that still have a cable subscription, we're going to understand what's happening from a linear perspective. And the insights we glean from there for marketers and for agencies is pretty eye-opening in terms of what kind of duplication of your ads are being seen by the same audiences over and over. It really helps us understand that World Cup example. And there's about roughly about 40 million of these sets now in the United States. So it gives us a huge data set of what's happening both in streaming television and what's still happening in terms of linear television. And that's why, a big piece of how we're operating is we think this is a big piece of how we can help solve for this problem, is that this is what all those 70 million accounts tune into every single day. They open up their Roku device. This is their home screen. Your home screen is going to look very different than someone else's home screen. It's all based on what you're watching and what you're more interested in seeing. And so what gets very interesting about this, obviously we're selling in advertising across all of these different apps based on high-value strategic audiences, right? We're not out selling, hey, I'll sell you that Hulu show. I'm not doing that. Hulu can do that for you. But I'm telling you that I can help you reach that Ford intender in the Northeast. I can help you reach, the diabetes, someone with diabetes, or as a caregiver for someone with diabetes. So we're serving up deterministic audience-based advertising across all of this app ecosystem. What we're also doing, what's very interesting about this home page, is as you see on the right-hand side, that big, beautiful home screen banner is also helping to direct people to content that they don't know they want yet. And or if you're just finding Netflix viewers that are turning this on, they're going straight to Netflix, and they're not going to go watch an ad, and they're not looking for ad-supported TV, they get to see this big banner, and it's a branding opportunity as well as a click-through and a interactive opportunity. What we find is that literally about 2/3 of the Roku audience turns this home screen on and they don't know what they want to watch yet, right? 2/3 of those 70 million accounts don't know what they want to watch because there's a massive amount of content out there, a massive amount of choice. And then they spend about 11 minutes searching for this. And what we're trying to really do, and that's part of that streamer journey that I mentioned earlier, is making sure that we can help them and help direct them to the content that they want faster. This particular banner right here, right, is about NCAA March Madness and CBS. And so big piece of our business is also the media and entertainment side, partners that a lot of you guys are in this room, of helping to support their streaming apps as well. So this is a big piece of the streamer journey. Not only is it advertising, but it's also discovery. Back on that other slide also, right, we're app agnostic, so all your top major brands that you hear about and read about, we're also, we serve ads in literally the top 100 apps that people are watching. But you also have the Roku channel, which somebody plugged for me earlier, which was very nice of them. But the Roku channel is our owned and operated channel, right? And it's not really even a channel. It's more of an ecosystem of content, free ad-supported content. And that ad-supported part is 8 minutes of ads per hour, right? So that's a very low ad load. We make sure that it's targeted and relevant ads. We do a lot of interactivity in those ads as well. But the Roku channel was born out of free. And so what we're doing now is standing up a ton of free content. Now that can be in the form of video on demand episodes and series and whatnot, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's also electronic programming guide, like what you would see on your cable box, right? That you can scroll through and channel surf and see live curated channels that a lot of the big broadcast network groups are helping to support and to program for us. But it's it's one of the fastest growing apps on our platform, and it's now one of the most sort of sought after from our audience and our consumers. I won't go through all this, but the Roku channel, like I said, is an ecosystem of lots of stuff going on. We're standing up Roku Originals, which you guys have probably heard about. We're going to talk a lot more about that next week at our New Front event on May 2nd. But it spans a lot of different areas and genres and a couple areas that are important that we're standing up. Roku Eats, which is all about culinary, and we've had Martha Stewart and Emma Lagasse on our platform in a big way over the past year. Roku Builds, like This Old House and Idea House. Roku Entertains, which is a variety of things, and a ton of Spanish language content, which we see that Spanish language audience exploding on our platform. That's Emerald talking about cooking burgers with Coke. This was all about an NFL tailgate series that we ran that Coke was a major sponsor. So not only are we putting ads around our content, but we're building them in. And the other conundrum that we're also facing is a lot of what the past two panels were talking about as well, which is the reach frequency problem. Jason just talked about Hulu and seeing too many ads on Hulu. But it's a serious concern, and one of the issues that we see and we're concerned about in the streaming environment is that we don't want to see fragmentation become a thing, right? And there is a lot of different streaming apps out there, but if you're not using a platform to purchase them and to connect your reach frequency curve across all of these disparate apps, what you're going to find is an unknowing of your reach and probably an over frequency of your audience. So we did an analysis looking at all the data that we have, and if you're buying or watching any one of these top 10 along with another one of these top 10, the average duplication of that audience is about 50%. 50%. So as we move out of linear reach, and linear reach is going by the wayside because of over frequencing, and we're trying to move into a streaming environment to find reach, we have to do it smarter, and we have to do it with data. And so that's where the platform comes in a big, big way, and that's what we do in a big way, is that we can connect the dots in terms of buying all of these different apps and buying against a specific audience and making sure that we're linking the reach and the frequency. So we can control for frequency while we're maximizing out reach, again, against a high-value audience. That could be first-party CRM that you're bringing to the table. It could be DAR. It could be any machination of what's important to the advertiser. But we will go find that audience in a way that is reach incremental and, again, reducing down the amount of frequency, all while putting more relevant ads in front of the right audience and make sure that we're not over-frequencying them, so that viewing experience is much better and that TV becomes better for everybody in the ecosystem, for consumers, for advertisers, and for all the content partners that we work with. So that's a little bit of our spiel of making better TV for everyone. And it's been great to be here, and I appreciate your time.